It's okay. There's always first.
Yeah, man.
And I grew up being told, you can't learn. Can't learn any younger. Mother used to tell me that all the time.
He is. He's right here. In the black. He agrees. This is what I do. Yeah, right. I might do that with my stuff too. Yep, there's some water. All right, it'll do.
I had to peel it out of the ceiling, so she just no, I let me in the classroom.
And you took it out of the
And another teacher.
So you're standing in the corner, right, like this.
Do I have to hold it?
Yes. She stole it like classroom.
I didn't steal it.
Yeah, you're gonna hold it. Just don't sit on the ground. Oh, I don't know. We only have one microphone for it. You go sit with her on my
But I'm going to talk to you next. Brian Stiles runs the U.S. site over there. Okay, great. How do you No, you had to sign it, but it wasn't Brian style, it just. And is it right to sign for more than one? Yes, because you get more people on the ballot. You get to make up your mind in August. No, can you? Oh, yes, absolutely. Because that was before Brian had announced. You can't, what you can't do is that what you can't do is sign for the same person. Correct. That's okay. That's what I was. We were being nice. No, and there was another question.
Huh?
I don't need to. I can't read one. How you doing? Great. Great.
Mike can also speak for that.
You looking for Jen?
For here. She said she hopes
Probably gonna get a big rush. I would have really good week.
Thank you.
Probably 5 hours, to be honest.
Needs to get in there. Very nice to see you.
Talk to Jennifer, she's in your car. Or just her vote.
I don't want to mess the time.
No, they'll come in.
I'm just trying to go upstream.
I'm sure you can go to the other
How are you? It's like a freaking reunion in here, isn't it?
It's a mini
Hey Keith, are there more residents in there?
Now that you said that, I'm like,
Okay, can I have one?
I didn't get to play today.
Thank you.
That's right.
I have tried to are they going to be called up by after you do okay. That's it.
You have a friend?
You want to have a card? Sure. You can just hold the card. I'm aware of that.
I was going to say.
I'm guessing that behind Jeez. He does.
I've seen it.
All right, do you want me to stand on the stage?
So we can see it.
And then there's on the opposite end.
Well, some of them, that's
Thank you.
Stephen?
Steve, when was the last time you were on this stage?
No, I don't need that. I need a bag. Yep. Thank you.
They got the mics on the floor. We're tap dancing.
Oh, I need a bottle of water though.
I have it right there.
Oh,
And another one here.
I only need one.
Debs are down there. Is this on? It's on. All right, if we can get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Our flag is right over here. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hello, my name is Keith Mann. I'm the president of the Union Grove Chamber. On behalf of the Chamber, I'd like to welcome the candidates and the residents of the village of Yorkville to this forum. Tonight's event will begin with statements from the candidates for president, followed by a short question and answer session. Then statements from the trustees, also followed by a short question and answer session. After question and answers are done, we will hear closing remarks from the trustee candidates, then closing remarks from the presidential candidates. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Marge to move.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith. Good evening, residents of Yorkville, candidates, Chamber of Commerce, and observers. It is an honor and a privilege to be at this candidates forum as Yorkville transitions to a village. Congratulations to you Yorkville residents for your record-setting vote to become a village. Your 95% yes vote was remarkable, a consensus rare at this level of government today. It is also remarkable that we have before us 8 candidates willing to help make some difficult decisions in the days to come. These candidates collectively reflect a wealth of community and governmental experience. I applaud them for their willingness to commit their time and talents to your new governing body. While the candidates are all concerned for the well-being of the new village, we know that some issues have different goals and/or pathways to those same goals. Yorkville residents, please keep in mind as you ask your questions tonight that this is an information gathering session, not a debate. Also, no personal questions will be considered. Keith has read the rules for this evening. Basically, each candidate has 2 minutes to answer a question, and they will rotate in the order of answering first. And candidates, let me just add that my most significant claim to fame was admonishing on this very stage the current Speaker of the United States House of Representatives that, excuse me, Congressman, but your time is up. So we will begin tonight with our presidential candidates giving their introductory speech. Or not presidential, yes, president of the village. So Jim, we'll start with you, followed by Sherry. Let's figure this out.
Thank you, Marge, Chamber. Thank you, everybody, for coming here tonight to be involved. My name is James Fox. I go by Jim for most applications every day. Those of you who don't know me, I graduated from this very school we're in. I've been blessed with the support of good family. As far as my political background, I was voted in, 5 years served terms for the village of Union Grove as a trustee. Planning Commission was started to do the engineering from the new treatment plant from the time of its conception. I was on the stormwater when they were bringing the stormwater commission together to represent the different communities. Parks and Recreation, I was also on the building board to review the permits, look at elevations, met with the state on highway concerns for the Piggly Wiggly complex, phase 3 and 4 of the development of the Mastercraft subdivisions. And I am looking forward to serving every one of us as a group, not individuals, but as a community. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the Union Grove Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum. Important issues in this race. Our becoming a village has allowed us to get our borders protected. That was an important issue, and I was happy to know the residents of our village agreed. Development will come, and we need to be ready. Our Grandview Business Park will grow, and isn't that what we want? Our prior board members envisioned something for the interstate land some time ago. What we got was gold. To have been able to foresee what we now have, I don't think many of us could have imagined. We want to continue to see continued growth in this area. This is our greatest asset, and this is what needs to be continued as our greatest asset for our village. Another important issue is that we have put ourselves in a position to grow. By becoming a village, we have some things we can do to protect ourselves and help ourselves when needed. Being able to create a TID district will be a very important tool for us. We can talk about how you feel about the issues, listen to all the board members and the residents, talk through all the issues, and make good decisions for all residents. In addition to this talk about future development, we still have to run our village. There are and still will be items that will come before the board for their consideration. Conditional use permits, certified survey maps, to name a few, as well as permits for all types of events, our roads, sewer and water concerns that might come up, and the board has to stay abreast and up to date on our ordinances to make sure they stay current. How many times have you heard people say they want to come and move into Yorkville? Our schools are one reason for this. We are rural, and that is what I believe the people want, and we want to be able to keep the rural character. I want to be able to look at each and every opportunity and understand what the benefits are, pro or negative comments. Controlled growth. Sewer and water services are critical in areas where we would want to see industrial growth. Thank you.
At this time, I would entertain questions for the Jim and Sherry for the presidential office. And I'd like to re-emphasize that you must be a resident of Yorkville in order to ask a question tonight. So if you'll raise your hand, I will acknowledge you. Gentleman in the front.
Hi, I'm Bill J. A couple of ingredients that help our community very well. One has been the light green manufacturing. Sherry, you mentioned it around the interstate. The second is the 3-acre requirement for residential parcels. If either of you are the next president, would you agree to continue that program because it has helped us? It's made Yorkville a desirable place to live. It's kept our semi-rural environment. So again, light green manufactured along the freeway only residential properties.
Is this mic working? Thank you. Mr. Jake, I am in total agreement on that. One thing I would like to add is when we do our 3-acre parcels for development, I would like a little bit more attention paid to some of the natural waterways of the lay of the land. A lot of times when developers come in, or if someone has farmland that they want to break off, a lot of this isn't taken into effect. And I think that it would be healthier for some instances, not all, that it gets a little bit more attention, because if new people want to come in and be our neighbors, we don't want them to be living with a challenge right from the get-go on a new house or a project where they're going to be living. So I'm in 100% support of what you're asking. Thank you.
I believe in residential growth, and I hope we have some residential growth in our village. I keep saying town, sorry. In our village in the future. And I do agree that the 3-acre parcels should stay as our limit. We've had even some subdivisions come into our community, and we've even been looking at those and telling them that we want to see those parcels be 3-acre parcels, even in a subdivision. So that is definitely something I think we want to stay with. I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't want that. As far as along the interstate, light industrial, it very well could be light industrial. We have no idea what kind of industry might come in on the interstate. We'll just have to take and look at every single opportunity that comes in and weigh it and see how it fits in our village for future development.
Thank you. The next question. Yes, sir. State your name, please, and your address. Excuse me, sir, could you condense your question, please? Where they live is public information, but just ask the direct question.
Where do you live related to the interstate?
I don't think that's relevant. It's public information. Do you have a question or related to that? Next question, please. You got to put your hands up high. Yes, sir.
Development in the southeast quadrant to house approximately 12 to 15,000 residents coming in. At the rate that our current Yorkville school handles, which is approximately 15% of our population goes to Yorkville school, with 12 to 15,000 more residents, at 15% we would have 1,800 more students, meaning how are we going to pay for 3 more elementary schools as well as pay for another high school just for Yorkville? If the proposal that was put up in the past, that we were going to have this huge residential area to house all the people coming in for Foxconn. Understanding.
Okay, excuse me. Answer the question, please. I'm going to ask the audience to condense your question. Think about it before you stand. They can be condensed, or we aren't going to get an opportunity to hear the trustees tonight. Sherry, you're next.
Okay, first of all, the comprehensive plan that you are referring to was not passed, okay? That is off the record right now. We don't have a current, well, we have a current comprehensive plan, but it isn't the one that you're referring to. So the 18 or 15,000 residents that you're talking about possibly coming into the town, I don't see that happening in the near future. I just don't. I think we are going to have residential growth, but I do not believe that it's going to be to the extent that it was initially thought of when that comprehensive plan was initially made up. So I'm not concerned. I know we have room in our schools. We don't have room for 1,800 kids, but we do have room in our schools right now for residential growth that I think will come into the village, but I don't believe it's ever going to get to the quantities that you're saying. And like I said, that was an original comprehensive plan that did not get passed.
I'm going to resound with Sherry on that. A lot of the residents in our community met and reinforced to our board that that comprehensive plan was not the fit that the people in this community wanted. There was, I think the board got put in an awkward position because of the rapid development on the east side of the interstate. But after all the citizens expressed their concerns to our current board, that got voted down. And I'm thankful that you were paying attention to it and continue to participate, because without the participation from everybody in our community, the board might have been under undue stress to sway where the people didn't want it. Thank you.
Next question. Raise your hand high, please. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know how you're going to work with the county and with Mount Pleasant to bring some of this enormous economic bonanza to our new village.
Could you please use the mic?
How will you bring the economic advantages of this bonanza? The whole state is sending money to Racine County. How is the new village of Yorkville going to benefit from that? I'd like to know how you're going to bring home the bacon for us.
Jim, you're up first.
Thank you. We are currently under development for a new land use plan, one that is not being drawn up by the county or Mount Pleasant, but it is going to resemble the clean manufacturing to keep it along the interstate for access for traffic. And while doing that, we probably are going to have to take and look at extending some sewer services, which will be discussed very shortly from what is on the schedule that I am aware of at this time. Along with that, we're going to have to take and upgrade our water facility to take and match that. To my knowledge, as I'm sitting here right now, the furthest point west of the interstate for our current industrial developments is approximately 0.6 of a mile at its deepest point. And I think that the community is anxious to contain it to that range, and it's a responsibility of the Planning Commission and the board to take and draw up those boundaries as it develops in a southern direction along the interstate. Thank you.
If we can get industrial growth on our interstate area and more industry in our Grandview Parkway, that will help the town of Yorkville immensely as far as our tax base goes, with very little services that will be required to help that out there. So the fire and rescue department will have to deal with those buildings on the interstate, but we don't have to provide schools for them. There are so many more issues there, and the tax base that the town or the village will gain from any industry that goes in on the interstate will help everybody in this room. It will help all of our taxes. So I think we need to make sure that that's what we concentrate on for future industrial development, is along our interstate.
Okay, next question. I guess the questions are weighted on this side. Yes, sir.
My name is Larry Dembski, 1780858 Road. I have a question for Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox, I was impressed by all your accomplishments here, and especially I was surprised that you had something to do with permits. And I guess I can't ask you this because of the forum, but I can't ask you why you have 3 buildings without permits on your property.
I think that's a personal question.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, that's why I didn't
I
ask it.
should have caught it sooner. I apologize. I'm going to have to be more diligent up here and see where these questions are going. Who's next, please? Yes. State your name and address, please, and confine your question.
Chad Thur, 14700 50th Road. We talk about all the tax base, and I know we just had the referendum we passed for the school, you know, with the additional monies needed. Based on anything involving the taxes, where do you feel the industrial growth on the interstate will help with that compared to residential? What percentage do you think you'll need in industrial versus residential?
Well, right now our industrial park pays, I think it's about 30 or 31% of our taxes for the village. So industrial, their buildings, the buildings that they build out there, they're huge and they're very expensive, and so the tax base that brings is quite enormous. We really have no idea what kind of industry we might be getting in. It could be a building related to the Foxconn issue. We have no idea what we have coming. But I do believe any industry building that comes in on the interstate is going to be the asset that we need to keep our village tax base to the point where we will be able to keep our resident taxes, you know, hopefully lower. If not, I don't see them going higher. Now, granted, the Yorkville School just passed a referendum, and that is going to raise the taxes, but that's your school taxes, that's not your town taxes. So, but we just really have to concentrate, and it's going to be a lot easier to have industrial growth tax base than it is for residential. The tax base you get for residential is good, but you still have to provide the schools for the residential, you have to provide fire department for residential, you have a lot more services that you have to provide to the residential areas, whereas on the industry side, it's not quite as elaborate.
Thank you. And again, I'd like to remind you to please state your name and address and to direct your questions to the office, not to a certain person. They will both answer the question, and anything personal is going to be ruled out. And again, I ask your cooperation with this. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so intent on getting that message out.
Sherry was very accurate in saying that close to the percentages that our industrial supplements our tax base for all our residents. The benefit that we also have for it, she touched base on, is that we don't have to provide an extended amount of services. For any of the industrial that comes in, other than our fire protection, and the fire protection in the industrial section is more regulated by the state, and I want to think off of recollection that for the last 11, possibly 12 years, all those industrial buildings have to be fire sprinklered now. So that does give us an added benefit in case there is an incident, that it's not severe, and that's good engineering for the community and everybody involved.
And now the next question, please. The gentleman in the back.
I don't need a mic.
You're right.
I'm Larry Verbal. I live on Savage Road. Currently, the fire department and rescue squad answer calls on the interstate. will that continue? And is it, is the village going to lose money on when they answer a call out there, or is that something that's going to pay for itself, so to speak?
We get paid per call when we go up on the interstate. There's a certain percentage. And yes, that will continue because the interstate is the center dividing line between Racine County, between Yorkville and Mount Pleasant. And if there's a severe enough incident up there, there is co-respondence. So if it's in our jurisdiction to handle it and it requires assistance through the mutual aid that has been set in place with our volunteer fire departments, that will be the call of the responder for the severity of it. But as to my knowledge, as we're sitting here, that plan is in effect and it will not change.
Yes, what Jim is saying is true. Our fire department, fire and rescue, they do the interstate right now. There has been some talk that Mount Pleasant is wanting to build another substation, so to speak, out on their side of the interstate close to Foxconn area to handle the extra volume of traffic that they're anticipating is going to be coming with that project. But as far as Union Grove goes, our Union Grove Yorkville Fire Department is status quo, and it's going to stay just as it is right now, and it will be servicing the west side of the interstate.
All right, the next question, please. You're not all jumping. We'll take, okay, the lady in the fourth row back. Right there. Can you use the microphone, please?
She had her hand up here.
Oh, back behind me. Right behind me. Yeah.
Yeah. Vicky Stellato, 5115 57th Drive. I have a question about, it sounded like there was a little bit of a plan for future development and specifically residential. If there is a plan, what is it? Or you said you would like growth coming in here, that we all want growth. We do not all want growth. I mean, I know I don't. I would like very little residential growth myself. And if they're going to do it, I think all of us should be aware of it and not have it thrown at us.
Excuse me, so your question is there a plan at this time
yes,
for
and also
potential
one
growth?
more question that I'm thinking.
One question at a time, please.
Well, if there is a plan already, that let us know about it and not.
Actually, and I'm going to step in here, a new board is being elected, so I don't know that it's a new village, it's a new entity, and things that were set up in the past are not necessarily true, and perhaps the candidates can clarify that for me, please. Sherry?
There is no residential plan at this time, okay? Each and every person or developer that wants to come into our village and present us a plan for a subdivision or what have you has to come before the board, and it has to be signed off, and there's countless community meetings that would be held for all the landowners in the area of that proposal for a subdivision. That would all be done, but as far as having a plan for a certain area to be designated for residential, there is no plan at this time.
I'm going to have to repeat that there was a tentative land use plan, but the community expressed to the board that they were not satisfied with that, and so that got voted down. So there will be more discussions, as development is inevitable, but that was the point of slowing it down, putting more time to it, and putting more rationality behind it, so we didn't have a runaway urban sprawl, because it will put too much burden on our school system, our services, and also as we became a village. When you become a village in the state of Wisconsin, you have to watch your population, because there's certain regulations that will tell you that when you reach the population of in the vicinity of 5,000 to 5,500, then you have to start inquiring about providing a full-time fire and rescue. So at this moment, there's not one, Vicki.
I understand that there are many rumors out there, and it's probably good that we had that clarified. Thank you for asking that. Gentleman in the front here, please.
Hi. I probably don't need that either.
I think they do. People in back.
Dwight Dreger, 15540 Braun Road. With the recently tabled or turned down land use plan, the communication that was delivered to the community I felt was a little bit lacking, and it was mostly a grassroots effort to get people to meetings. And I'm wondering if you as the candidates for president could tell us how you're going to improve the communication on vital pieces of legislation or ordinances or changes to land use plans, so that we are all aware of what's going on. Thank you.
Jim?
Well, amongst all of the division in our community resulting from that incident, I would like to see the people, first off, be more correspondence with the board. The board is elected by all of us. Yes, we are a limited number that hear different concerns, and everybody takes it for granted that the board sometimes can come up with all the magical answers. Well, we're just members of this community that are here to represent. We get dealt down some information that doesn't even get responded to. I've been to many meetings, followed this board for over a decade, and because of our hurried schedule, we have sometimes 2 or 3 people. So I'm asking the people that in here to communicate with the rest of the community, that when issues come up, to correspond with the board. And I would like to see the new board take and put it out, more information on our website, and people take advantage of it. It will take and be served to the community, and that way we won't run into these instances like we just did in the last 6 months. And electronically, it'll be a lot more feasible for the village to communicate with the citizens rather than taking and printing out the newsletter, but the newsletter is still very important. Thank you.
Just as he was talking, I says, yeah, check your website. Check the town website. It's a lot of information goes on our website. Please make sure you check it. Also, there will be, when something like the comprehensive plan is going to be discussed or come up again, there will be numerous public hearings held. I encourage all of you to come to these public hearings, to let your voice be heard. Let us know, or let the board know how you feel about certain things in certain areas. This is very, very important. Unfortunately, when the last one came through, it did come through on a very rushed schedule, but that was no fault of the village. That's just the way it worked out. But I think we've learned in the past that we're not going to do that again. It's going to take some time to come with a new comprehensive plan to make sure it's going to be fair for everybody, every resident of the town.
Okay, I'll entertain 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're going to get on to the trustees. Lady in the back there. That's you. Yes. Just stand, please. And State your name and address.
Barb Geschke, 1616 63rd Drive, Union Grove, Village of Yorkville. What one thing in your background and experience do you feel makes you the most qualified to be able to represent all of us fairly and consistently going forward?
Good question. Well, I've been on the board for the last 5.5 years as a supervisor. I've been on the Planning Commission for a number of years prior to that. Having when I first got on the Planning Commission back in 1981, I was very young and I didn't know too much about anything that was going on in the village. And since that time, let me tell you, I have learned more than my head can hold at times. The knowledge that I have learned in the past by attending not only meetings but from the previous board members has been some knowledge that I can almost non-comprehensible. It's exciting. It's an exciting time for the village, and I would love to be able to stay in this position so that I can see the changes that I know that are going to come and face this village and this board in the future. And having served on the board and Planning Commission for a number of years, I feel that I am qualified to continue on.
Thank you, Barb. The question, I will go back to, first off, I've been having the fortune of having working hands-on experience in the building trade, also in working with an excavating company, working out in the field, and then I'll go back to my experience with the Village of Union Grove, starting with the water treatment facility. I was involved with the upgrades on that right from the beginning. The Mastercraft 3 and 4 subdivisions, where we were sitting down negotiating with the state many times up in Waukesha with the DOT. That was my privilege to serve the residents, and I think it would be a privilege to serve our community. As far as engineering, I have had some basic engineering in the road building, shooting grades, laying tile, also being a chairperson for the drainage district, which was set up at the time that Southern Center was closing down their wastewater treatment facility, and that was another source of meetings with the state so that we could take and coordinate between the Village of Union Grove and the Southern Center facility.
I'll entertain one more question and then we will go on to questions for the trustees. The gentleman in the back or the lady in the back there.
1116 51st Drive. As we transition from a town to a village, we will be in an opportunity to have new roles and responsibilities. In fact, there'll be state statutes that are placed upon us in this new form of a municipality. As village president, what do you anticipate to be your greatest challenge in understanding those new roles and responsibilities, and how do you expect to overcome that challenge?
Thank you. First off, the legalities that come from becoming a town to a village are set down by the state standards, as you had just mentioned. They require us all, as president position and board members, to become more involved directly in committees. Where before the town chair previously held was assumed that responsibility of more than the supervisors were. Under the new guidelines of the state, committees will be held by each chairperson. As laws change, unless you have a legal degree, you will never keep up with everything. Our town council is at all of our meetings, and is also when we lay out our agendas, that council is called upon before meetings many times to make sure that when we lay our agendas out, that they do follow the regulations set up by the state. I think a challenge will be for anyone who becomes a member of this new board is that the state has sent regulations down, and sometimes the regulations that they send down to our communities are restricting some of our ordinances. I think that the board will need the support of the community more than we all realize, so that if we have a challenge, we can take it to our state representatives with the support of the community behind us.
I think one of the greatest challenges that this board is going to have is being able to keep all our residents happy. I think because we sit here and we talk about growth, we talk about industrial growth, we talk about residential growth. I know the people of this village want to stay rural, and we still need growth, but we still want to remain and have our rural character. And I think that's very important, and I think that's going to be a big challenge for this board going forward, to be able to have control over our growth and be able to stay within our ordinances that we have. There's just so much happening in such a short period of time for us to be able to understand all the new statutes and stuff that Jim was explaining. There's so much out there that the new village board is going to have to learn about an awful lot of things. But I think the greatest challenge is going to be keeping our residents happy and keeping our rural character as we have continued growth in the village.
Thank you for your questions for these presidential candidates, and at this time I'm going to ask the candidates for the trustee position to come forward to the podium and give their opening statement. Carrie, we'll start with you, and the rest just follow right along.
Why do I always have trouble with microphones? Good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Bergs, and I'm running for one of Yorkville's new village trustee positions. This is an important election for Yorkville, our first as a village, and one that will play a crucial role in defining our future. In my view, there are three key issues that must be promptly addressed by the village board this year. First, we must upgrade the water and sewer system that currently serves Grandview Business Park, as it does not meet the current DNR standards and it doesn't have enough capacity to support new business. Secondly, Yorkville must review its comprehensive land use plan, this time proactively seeking widespread community input and consensus about Yorkville's future growth and development. On October 2nd, 2017, our town board signed a contract with a consulting engineering firm for a project titled Preliminary Land Use Planning for a Future Technology Park. This contract refers specifically to Foxconn and the potential development of a smart city in Yorkville. The new 2035 land use plan, endorsed by our town board and sent to the county for approval before the public hearing, designated almost 2,000 acres for commercial and industrial development and 1,700 acres for medium-density residential growth with a projected population of 15,300 additional residents. For more than 4 months, the town board worked on a plan that would radically alter the nature and character of our community with little input from us. That is unacceptable and should never happen again. This directly relates to my third key issue. The new village board must embrace the philosophy of government for the people and by the people. We must promote transparent government and engage in open, honest communication with all who elected us. Let us remember that the village of Yorkville is also the community of Yorkville. As a trustee, I will actively seek and listen to your input on issues, and I will make it my mission to ensure that our village board keeps you informed and engaged as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Kay Erickson. I would like to introduce myself. I was born and raised in Raymond, where I went to Raymond Elementary School. I'm a graduate from the Union Grove High School and a lifelong resident of this area. My husband and I have 4 children and 12 grandchildren, and I became a resident of Yorkville back in 1980, and I have lived on Spring Street for the past 38 roughly years. I am the owner of a water and sewer excavating company, and that's been for 40 years, and now for the past 19 years, Erickson's Landscape Supply. And I'm honored, and I count it a privilege in calling many Yorkville residents my customers. Yorkville's been a very special place for me. I've raised my family here. We like the rural setting, but we also know that there's going to be changes coming. For the past 4 decades, I have been heavily involved in municipalities, contracts, dealing with local, county, state officials, working with private and commercial developers. With this experience of being on the other side of the table for 40 years, I feel I can bring a lot of insight to this new board. We have a big job ahead of us, and we need to find a balance between rural and development, maintaining affordable housing, creating jobs, and conserving our land. With good planning, this new board can reach these goals, and we can complement rather than compete with each other, keeping Yorkville a thriving community to live in. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Funk. I'm the Vice President of Robert E. Funk Farms in Yorkville here. I was lucky enough to spend my life growing up working on our family farm with my grandfather and father here in Yorkville. They taught me what hard work, determination, and facing adversity really meant. They taught me to have a strong work ethic and be a good steward to the land. As a lifelong resident of Yorkville, I decided to run for a position of trustee on the new village board. My goal is to protect the rural small town feel of Yorkville while preserving the tax base with appropriate development. Currently, I am a member of the Yorkville Planning Commission as well as this Yorkville Stormwater Commission. This has allowed me to get a firm grasp of what is going on in the community and the tough decisions that are going to be ahead of the new board. This is the time to protect the integrity of our community by maintaining the high standard previous boards have built over the years. Controlled growth is an asset to any village, and we have to take advantage of the potential tax base by allowing the right businesses who will invest in our community. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but I do know how to listen, and it will be my priority to hear questions and concerns of the community. I will do research and work with the fellow board members to find the best solution for the greater good of the whole village. As a third-generation farmer, my roots are here, they've been here, and hopefully always will. I take pride in where I'm from and want to see it continue to grow and thrive responsibly. To continue to thrive and grow responsibly.
Excuse my nerves. Hello, my name is Dan Morris. I'm 40 years old and a lifelong resident of Yorkville. My family settled here in 1847, and now my wife Katie and I enjoy raising our 3 young children here. I am employed full-time by the City of Racine and am a proud owner-operator of Morris Family Farms here in Yorkville. In my spare time, I enjoy being an active member of the Kiwanis Club of Union Grove. I'm a former president and been a member for 17 years. I also currently serve on the Yorkville Planning Commission, Stormwater Commission, so I'm well aware of the many challenges Yorkville is now facing. Becoming a village was the first major step for us in protecting our borders. This enables us to keep and build upon the wonderful community that we all enjoy. Grandview Industrial Park has been a wonderful part of our community for over 30 years. We have all benefited from lower taxes. The sewer and water problems in Grandview need to be addressed immediately. Our treatment plant is on violation notice from the DNR. We have until October to have a plan in place and be acting upon it. The water system is also antiquated and needs to be brought into compliance as well. By upgrading these on our own, we do not have to partner with another community. We can control our own future. Development is another major issue facing Yorkville today. Many people desire the wonderful lifestyle and school systems that we have here. I believe by controlling this growth, we can still enjoy the wonderful rural way of life that we all love. We have strict rules in place on developments, and I plan on keeping these in place and enforcing them. Being a trustee will not be an easy task, but it's an important one. Decisions we make today will affect generations to come. Yorkville has a long history of being fiscally conservative. Continuing on this path is my goal. My philosophy is simple: don't spend what you don't have. As you can see, I have quite a vested interest in the village of Yorkville. I encourage all of you to vote for me, Dan Morris. Help me give back to the community that helped raise all of us. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'd like to thank Jennifer and the Union Grove Chamber of Commerce and the high school in presenting this forum tonight. I'm Terry McMahon, and I would like your vote as a trustee for the village of Yorkville. Issues in front of this board will be, number one, growth. We can't stop growth, but we can manage it. And I think in my 33 years on the board for the town, we did a great job in managing the growth. The industrial park is a gem. One client, one customer out there supports 13% of the tax base for the village of Yorkville. We have some issues. As Dan mentioned, our sewer is not in compliance, our sewer system. Our water, the Public Service Commission has requested we put in a second well to protect the customers, and we only have commercial customers. We do not service residents, and that's the way the water district is established through the Public Service Commission. The other major investment you have is your highway structures. You have an investment of $12 million in the 48 miles in the village of Yorkville. To resurface and rebuild 1 mile costs $250,000. Think of that investment. And so our challenge as a board will be to maintain and upgrade the structure of our roads in the village of Yorkville. The other issue that we've talked about here tonight is our fire and EMS service. At our last fire commission meeting, Tom Zerniak, our fire chief, informed the commission that we're going to have to readdress a location for that. I want to thank you, and how I plan on working on this is through collaboration with our adjoining municipalities. Thank you for coming out.
My name's Steve Nelson. I'm running for trustee. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Wow, the village of Yorkville. 2 years ago, who would have thought we'd be saying that? I'd like to thank all the voters who realized the importance of making that happen. Now the citizens of Yorkville can decide the size and future of our village. In 2003, Yorkville enacted a land use plan for 2020 after a citizen land use committee spent a lot of time and effort developing it. In 2009, Yorkville approved the Racine County multi-jurisdictional 2035 plan for Yorkville, which is exactly the same as the plan that was originally made out in 2020, for 2020. Over the years, Yorkville officials have strictly followed this plan. While we may look at this plan in light of development around us, any changes must be well thought out, as this current plan has served us well. The new board will also have to make some decisions on committee appointments and the structure of the government. And as has been mentioned before, we do have issues with our sewer and water that need to be upgraded. While addressing all of these issues, my aim would be to make common sense decisions that keep Yorkville the community we want to continue living in. Thank you.
At this time, I will entertain questions for the trustees, and I ask you to address your questions to the entire slate of candidates for the trustee position. They will take turns, rotation, again, in answering them. Maybe there's somebody else, Larry, that wants to start out. All right, a gentleman just walked in.
Hi, Chris Franco, 16212 Acorn Trail. This question was asked twice earlier of the presidential candidates, but I'd like to hear what the trustee candidates have to say about how do you plan on increasing communication, effectiveness of communication with the residents.
Katie, you will start out and then we'll continue.
Thank you. The key there is for all of us to get online. I mean, that's going to be our easiest way to communicate with one another. Outside of setting up, notices on the town door, it's really going to be online. Getting the communication, getting the webpage updated weekly, if not daily. That's going to be the biggest task. So we just encourage you to go online, ask for the email sign up so it comes directly to you so you'll know when things are ready to happen.
I guess I just have to agree with that. In today's world, social media, the internet is king, and it is the easiest form to get it to the vast group of people. Mike, the clerk, does a wonderful job of updating the website and the Facebook page, and like Kay said, email notification is available, and we just got to come to the meetings too. There's a lot of information at the meetings, but social media is the easiest way to get to the whole group, or internet is the easiest way to get to the whole group of people.
I agree with the two of them. Meetings, websites, social media, and an old-fashioned telephone call. Those are the ways that we get the word out. Talking to neighbors, but the way it is now, everybody's on Facebook or knows people that are, so that's a huge way of getting it out. The website, media, of course, meetings like Robbie said, but I can name dozens of you that are in this room that have called me about issues on Planning Commission, so a good old-fashioned phone call can go a long way too.
I have to agree with what the other candidates have stated here tonight. But the website is our official communication to you people. You all have our telephone numbers, and this past week with all the water in the village of Yorkville, the line's been busy and going out and meeting with citizens. But we want to make sure, visit the website, because our clerk treasurer keeps that updated and constantly emailing the board and the planning commission of your concerns so we can address them? Thank you.
Well, I don't know how many times we can say the same thing, but being vigilant helps. And like, if you keep track on the website of the minutes of the previous meetings that are on there, you'll have a pretty good idea what happens. And I could be wrong about this, but I do think when there's major land use changes, the neighbors in the area of the affected property are sent letters. So that, you know, if you see a letter, don't throw it away. It might be important.
I'm sure you can tell from my opening comments that I have a completely different take on this, because our property at the end of 51st Drive was almost part of that 2,000-acre Foxconn development that was referred to in the signed contract in October. And yes, they did notify the landowners, but only the landowners that were directly adjacent to that property. And had a neighbor not shown up in my driveway on a very cold January day, I would have known nothing about this. So my take on all of this is not that we just need to tell you about things and you should go to the website. We need to ask you about things. We are a community and we will be elected to serve you. And I believe that we can do a much better job communicating with all of you, not only through the website, newsletters, but through a visioning process. There was just an article in the paper that Sturtevant has had a visioning session asking residents what they want their community to look like in the future. So I don't want to tell you things, Yorkville. I want to ask you things. I want you to be a part of our government. Thank you.
And if you're not a techie and don't have a website, Graham Public Library staff will be very happy. Your taxpayer, your taxes help support that. So by all means, take advantage of those very helpful and talented people down there. Next question, please. Let's see, the gentleman there in the teal.
My question will be short. Terry DeBravender, 16338 County Line Road, Sturtevant, Wisconsin. The question is, Foxconn is here. How are we going to take advantage of it?
Robert, you're first.
Foxconn is here is 100% true, and nobody knows for sure what's coming yet as other development. What I personally think is we do need to expand or fill in Grandview. It's probably only half full right now, but we don't want to develop with giving away too much. We have to bring in the right businesses that is good for this community, and we don't need a 1,000-acre development here. We need nice businesses that will invest in the community and hopefully be here for a long time.
I agree a lot with what Robbie said. Grandview is our crown jewel, and it's got facilities. It's right there across the interstate. There is a large amount of land in Grandview that is undeveloped. They have sewer and water right at their front door. Now, granted, we know we have issues with that to fix, but to attract businesses and income from Foxconn, that's what I would probably work on. Filling Grandview would be where I see it happening, and us as a community benefiting from it. I think we're also going to get some people as far as developments. There's several of them that have come before us, so we will get growth, as growth has happened for over 150 years around here. But I think our biggest benefit's going to be working on filling Grandview.
a year ago, we didn't even know Foxconn being in the area. And that's how fast and furious this has come at us. We in the state doesn't understand exactly what Foxconn is going to do. So
just a minute, excuse me, we lost the mic. Is it?
I got a red light.
Try it again. Is it working? Thank you, Kate.
There we go, it's green. Got to be green or it doesn't work. Our board in the past, over the 33 years I've been on the board, we have refused and sent business other places. Grandview is one of the outstanding industrial parks, aesthetic-wise and functional-wise, in the state of Wisconsin. Jerry Frank, who we worked with, set high standards. If you notice, there is no industrial park. We had a standard that you had to have a percentage of glass on your structures meeting I-94. That is what we want, and that's what I would support. My personal feeling is we want to keep the village of Yorkville rural, but we have to manage and do the correct things for your needs in the future.
If this Foxconn thing actually happens, and it sounds like it definitely is happening, I don't think we'll have any problem. I think businesses will be beating on our door for space. So our opportunities are going to be coming, and we're going to have to plan what we want. And we also, I think our problem is going to be too many coming, and we have a limit to our sewer and water systems. So without a big investment, we're going to be kind of limited on what we can do. But I think we'll be in the driver's seat to decide what businesses we want, actually.
I just want to make it clear that I am certainly not opposed to development. I know people have said, oh, that Carrie Berg, she's opposed to development. I am not at all opposed to development. I am want to make sure that we have controlled, thoughtful development. And one of the big issues, I think, facing this board is what I brought up in my opening statement, and that is the fact that the Grandview Business Park's sewer and water system has been neglected, really, for the last several years. I'm not sure why that is, but there is a commercial bakery that is really seeking to get into Grandview, and they simply can't because there is not enough water there to support them. So we need to dig another well. I mean, I am certainly not an expert on all of this. I will do my research and do my homework and advocate strongly that we preserve the gem that is Grandview, which is where I believe industrial and commercial development needs to stay, so that we have the premier industrial park for this part of Racine County. But we have to get the water and the sewer issues resolved first.
I know that with the development along I-94, now that we have control of our borders, we'll have control over what's going to come in. We can cherry pick what we think will be the best for our community at large. With the treatment plant and the new well that has to come, I know Racine County is offered to help pay for that, and as development comes, then we pay it back. And of course, the development that we want is going to be at Grandview. They're a net gain to our community. The taxes we will get from them will be able to keep because the services we won't have to render. So I say open borders for Grandview, and we'll be able to turn away what we don't want and keep what we do.
I would like to correct a statement.
Excuse me
made
just
by
a
the
minute.
candidate.
What is the?
Pardon?
What is the issue? Next question, please. Okay, next question. We have somebody that hasn't asked one in the past. Have you asked in the past? Oh, well, you're next, sir.
111 Brown Road.
Here's the mic.
I don't need that.
They would like to hear you in the back.
Anyway, on Foxconn, the gravel trucks were running down our road, and it's a Class B highway. I called the highway department. They didn't do a thing about it. And I was over by Jim Fox. He got on the phone, called them, straightened them out right away. And now they got a sign, Class B sign on our road. And then another thing, too.
Excuse me. I'm asking you to ask a question for this.
This is gonna
we
be a
don't need
question.
any editorializing.
This is going to be a question. Next question on KR. The gravel trucks are running down the road. They're hauling gravel out of Burlington for Foxconn. Already they damaged the road. Who's going to pay for that road? Us taxpayers, or are you going to get after them people that pay the damage on the road?
Okay. You talk about KR. KR is a KR is a county road, not a town road. But when you talk about
Okay,
Brown
you
Road,
can
I
sit
believe
down and they'll
I believe
answer the questions.
The other road you might have been referring to earlier was Brown Road. We know that there's going to be a lot of issues with trucking there, and we already have had our engineer out there to take pictures before and after, and any businesses that are doing heavy hauling there are going to be held responsible, and a lot of them have to put money up front in order to do it. So if you're talking about like the potential clay pit there and different things like that, we do require them to put a bond up for what we feel the amount would be for the repair of the road. So we do hold their feet to the fire, and we do. I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Pass it on then for the next person.
I support what Dan has stated. I think the village has established the ground rules, and we're hoping that everybody plays by them, but I support what Dan said.
Yeah, the bond is required for instances where we've given permission for the trucks to come on the road after they've come to us. If there's heavy trucking on the roads, on our town roads, you need to notify the town board, because we'll have the sheriff come out and cite them, because our roads will just get destroyed.
I know that Highway 11, which is where we live off of, is also just inundated with gravel trucks coming from Burlington. And I saw a gravel truck try and sweep past a school bus the other day. And man, I wish I had had a light on my minivan, because I would have chased that truck down. They are very dangerous right now in this community. I'm not exactly sure what we do about it, but I would encourage all citizens to please, if you see issues, call the sheriff department and explain your concerns. I also think, as far as road repair, that if Foxconn could get $3 billion in tax credits from the state of Wisconsin, then maybe we should call our local state representative, Robin Voss, and find out what kind of money might be available to help repair Yorkville's roads after the Foxconn complex has been built. As Terry McMahon said, what was it, $200,000 a mile in road investment that we have here? We cannot allow Foxconn to destroy our roads, and we should not be expected to have to pay for them by ourselves. So I think this is where we need to engage our state government to say, what are you going to do to help us out here?
In answer to your question, what are we going to do to protect our roads? The contractor has to produce a performance bond and a road bond. And that's our insurance policy against them. So if they default in any way, do damage, that's where we collect from the, on the bonding.
I think everybody said everything I was going to say. The state roads are maintained by the state. The county roads are maintained by the county. And your town roads, now village roads, are maintained by the village.
Thank you. I understand emotions are running very high with Foxconn coming in here. There's a lot of unknowns. But again, I ask you to address general questions to the trustees. Any more questions? Yeah, go ahead. And thank you for waiting for the microphone because people in the back can't hear.
Hi, I'm Jean Uri. I live at 16520 Washington Avenue. My question is, from each of you, since this is a first experience for all of us Yorkville residents, how do we ensure that there's no conflict of interest in your decisions or agenda for the board? All of you gave a great opening statement of who you are, what you do, variety of people, variety of geographic locations in Yorkville. So how do you ensure us there's no conflict of interest?
All right, Dan, you get to start out.
I did the last one.
Oh, we're on to Terry. It's a good thing they're keeping me in line, isn't
you
it?
put me in the hot seat is what you did. Well, conflict of interest, all elected officials, the state statutes read, we cannot accept anything of value. Anything of value. We cannot accept from any individuals, any companies, and the maximum you can receive a token gift up to $25. That's the otherwise it's a felony, and who wants to go there for that kind of material?
I guess the only conflict of interest I would have is if somebody was opposed to the fact that I want to do what the people in the village of Yorkville want.
I wholeheartedly second that comment of Steve's. I think it is, I don't have any conflict of interest that I know of. But I think that it is our job up here, if elected, and I believe in the integrity of the people sitting up here, that we will act in your best interest, and that's what we're elected to do.
Yes, we are your employees, and that's our job. I think that gets lost on a lot of government employees. They forget who they're working for. They start thinking you're working for us. No, we're here to work for you. We want to see Yorkville succeed, be a wonderful rural place to have many generations come and live just like we were able to enjoy the settings. So we are your employees. We work for you.
If you would have asked me 5 years ago, I never thought I'd be sitting here today. So I don't feel I have a conflict. I'd like to repeat what everybody else said, but I just want to protect what I've grown to love about this community, and I think all you love about it too.
I, again, don't have a conflict of interest, and if several of you know me, I have zero agenda. I'm up here out of the goodness of my heart to give back to this community. The one thing I do want to do is protect Yorkville for the next generation. Yorkville gave a lot to me and a lot to all of you sitting here tonight. This community is wonderful, and I want to protect that for the next generation.
I don't mind being corrected. I raised 6 children in Yorkville, but handling 6 adults from Yorkville, that's a little different ballgame here tonight. So let's take our next question. All right, go ahead. We have some repeat questions, but they're for different offices, so I will welcome anybody who's spoken to the presidents to also ask the trustees questions.
Barb Geschke, 1616 63rd Drive. I commend all of you for your care and concern in running, and that's wonderful to see. I know from experience it's a little different sitting on that side of the table than it is down here. And I also know that this is a much bigger job than 2 meetings a month. Do each of you know what you are in for? And are you prepared to represent each of us equally and work with the board going forward?
Got that question? All right, Steve?
Well, one advantage of being old is you've done a lot of things and you've seen a lot of things, and the last since 2009 I've attended just about every board meeting for the town, and I've learned a lot. I've seen how different boards, different people on different boards have worked. I'd just like to say that we've been very, very lucky to have the members on these boards that we have had. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of responsibility because you're dealing with people's lives, and so you have to make decisions that'll benefit the town without jeopardizing people's rights. So it's a big job. I'm pretty sure I can handle it. I've had a lot of experience, so that's all I've got.
The short answer to your question is absolutely. I wouldn't be sitting up here if I didn't feel I was up to the challenge. I think I have the passion and the time and the interest and the commitment to this community to do a really good job for all of you, and to work in partnership and cooperation with those who will be fortunate enough to be elected to this board.
I'm self-employed, as you know, excuse me, so I'm used to juggling a lot of balls in the air at one time. And you know what they say, when you want something to get done, ask a busy person. I am so willing to help out our community. It's been a great place to live for 40 years. I have the knowledge, like I said, on the other side of the table to help with the development part of it. I understand the contracts. I understand that part of it. And I would look forward to serving you as a board member. And I just thank you.
As a current member of the Yorkville Planning Commission and also the Stormwater Commission, I've been to meetings, and I'm quite aware there's going to be more coming. There's going to be a lot of tough tasks ahead, and I'm open to the challenges and hoping we can resolve them for the greater good of the whole community. And the reason I'm sitting here is to protect what the previous boards have made this community all about, and I'm protecting it for the future generations of all our families.
Similar to what Robbie said, myself being on Planning Commission, being on Stormwater Commission, when I signed up or agreed to do those, it was 1 meeting a month, which we all know meant 2 meetings a month, and then meant several phone calls throughout the week. So to answer it in short, Barb, yes, I am aware, and it's going to take a lot of time, but anything worth doing is worth taking the time and immersing yourself fully into it. So I look forward to working with the board, and thank you.
It's been an honor and a privilege for me for the last 33 years to work with 3 great town chairmen, Pete Nelson, Jim Moyer, and Pete Hansen. And I look forward to moving the village of Yorkville in a proper manner and doing the things that are needs of our citizens in the village of Yorkville. Thank you.
Our next question, please. Yes, sir.
Since we already voted down this other one, now you can answer the question, because I'm certain it's on your mind and you have an idea, when approximately fall of 2020 or fall of 2025, but it'll be sooner than that, when will you propose and have finalized a new comprehensive land plan, knowing Foxconn is knocking on our door? And we would like to know sooner than like 2 days before you propose it to everyone.
Okay. Carrie, you get to answer that first.
Well, I can absolutely promise you that if I am elected to the village board, that you will know way ahead if we are going to create a new land use plan. And it will be created not just by the people who sit on the board, it will be created with input from all of you, because I believe that that is the only way to create a land use plan for Yorkville. You have to have citizen input. So I expect that a new land use plan, I can't tell you when it might be developed. I know that we need to take a look at it, and we need to take a look at it sooner than later. But I will guarantee you that when we do, you all will be the first to know, not the last to know, like last time.
I'm sure once that the board is in place and we see what's coming down the road for us, there's going to be a lot of changes in the next few years. You know, one of the things is do we have enough help just in the office of the village now? You know, is 2 people going to be enough? So there's going to be a lot of changes coming down, and this is going to be one of the major things that we're going to want to take a look at and to get a feel for it from the community at large. Like Carrie says, don't know when that's going to be, but I'm sure that would probably be in the next couple of years, sooner rather than later.
I guess the timeline is rather unknown right now, but as Steve mentioned before, when the last one was set in place in 2003, they had a community outreach when citizens went around with surveys. And that is one thing that I think is very important when the next one comes around, that we would have to do this again. Get people involved, get out and talk to people, and get a feeling, and then sit down and figure out what has to go from there. But as a timeline, it's rather unknown. Nobody knows what's happening in the near future right around here, so.
Again, similar to what Robbie just said, we have talked about this at our meetings, so it's something you could see if you attend or read the minutes, that the new board is going to be tasked with this, and it's going to be tasked almost immediately. We need to come up with a new comprehensive plan. That's, but again, there will be a committee to do it, and we will hold public informational meetings, hopefully ones that people can come to and put their suggestions down, and then a board that responds to it, and we come up with this committee can maybe come up with a good plan that can suit a lot of people's needs and not just thrown out there.
Before this village board can address the land use plan, we've been so busy over the last 6 to 8 months calling special meetings, meeting with attorneys, addressing Foxconn, that we haven't had the opportunity to sit down and readdress our subdivision ordinance. The Planning Commission and the board has talked about this. We know it's an important, critical issue to the land use plan, but we have to put that in place first, so that the citizens, you know, what the Planning Commission and the board sees the future of Yorkville. And then we can, as Dan and Robbie said, we'll have surveys, we'll bring in the public, we want to hear your comments, but we have to have that base first, and that's the subdivision ordinance we have to readdress. Thank you.
If I remember right, the town board talked about starting the process of picking some members for a new planning, I don't know what they're going to call it, not a planning commission because we already have one of those, but land use planning committee of some type. And some of the members that were on the original committee, I think, would be good fits for that. I don't think they've made any decisions yet, so if anybody's interested, you might want to contact the new board once they get elected. I doubt if they'll pick, I would think the old board wouldn't pick that committee until the new board's seated, but either way, if you're interested, make yourself known. And that last time they did this was before I started going to meetings, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't a short process. I think it was a couple-year deal. And the good news is that we already have a plan, and it's a good plan. So we can stick with that until we get the input. And just because we go through this process doesn't mean the thing's going to change that much. But that'll be up to the community to decide. The board will move it along, but this is definitely something that everybody in the community is going to have input on if we're going to change this, for any changes.
I'll entertain one more question for the trustees, and then they will have an opportunity, starting with Robert, to give their closing statements. After that, the presidential candidates will give their closing statements. This young lady in the back here has the...
Hi, I'm Jennifer Young, 15501 Braun Road. And just out of curiosity, how do you plan to monitor the We Energies gas pipeline that they are talking about bringing from Whitewater to the interstate? And currently they're saying that they're going to, the lesser or least expensive option is to run it along KR. And there's a more expensive option north, but they don't say where north. And they're talking about it being an 8-foot wide.
So the basic question is how are you going to monitor
that and notify us about damage to our property, potentially tearing down trees, fence lines, things like that?
I think we got the question. Thank you.
Well, I know in the past for myself, whenever I've been involved with We Energies, they're always communicating with us weeks in advance as to what their next step would be. So we're going to have that to go by, first of all. So we will be being notified by We Energies, as I'm sure the village of Yorkville. And it's going to be all of our responsibility here on the board to keep an eye on things and to know that these notifications are coming to us in a timely manner. I know that they will try to reach out to even the homeowners as they're doing it to let you know what's going on, but it will be our board, I'm sure with our attorney, to follow through to make sure that what they said they're going to do, that they'll be able to follow through and we'll be able to watch over them that way.
From what I've heard, this is a rather new situation that's coming. They are just starting now to let property owners know about it. They just applied for a permit through the state. It's rather unclear what's happening right now with it. So it was just brought up to our attention within the last 2 months. So it's coming. We don't know where for sure yet, and it's going to be an issue that we're going to have to deal with. It's just rather unknown at this time.
Again, like Robbie said, we just got notified about this within the last month. The section of Yorkville, they have a proposed Route A and they have a proposed Route B. And we did kind of touch base on it at the last meeting. That's about all we know so far. But as far as protecting the citizens, that's our job, and we are a voice for you. So if you have issues, sometimes it's not bad to reach out to us, because we do care about the community and what happens to our citizens.
I can't add any more than what Dan and Robbie have stated. When it comes to the area and we have the public hearings, we ask your input, and if you have any critical issues, get in touch with any member on the village board in the future.
Well, this is the first I've heard of it, so I'm kind of out of the loop on this, but I will say this, having dealt with right-of-ways for utilities through our own farm years ago, You're not going to stop it. And usually they put those lines, unless it's a huge line, and I don't know if it is. Normally they put them in the right-of-way of the road, so any damage to your property would be in the right-of-way of the road anyway. But if this is a big one, I know we fought the utility when it went through right through the middle of our farm fields, and there's no way out. So, but you know, keep track of public notices and stuff so you're informed.
Again, I think it is crucially important that when citizens come to us or the village board with questions or concerns, whether it is community-wide or it is pertaining specifically to their own property, that the village board do the research and the follow-up, and that we get back to you. I don't think it's good enough to just tell people, well, wait for the We Energies notice. I mean, I think it's our responsibility as elected government officials, if a citizen calls us, to really do the due diligence to find out as much as we can possibly know. We're not always going to know everything or not even be able to find it out. And then I would like to think that we would put that information up on our website, in our newsletter, and return your call personally to let you know what we have discovered.
I'd like to thank the audience for your very clear and many comprehensive questions tonight. At this time, I'm going to call on the trustee candidates to make their closing statement. They can tell you why you should vote for them. If they want to address some of the questions that have been raised already this evening, they may do that. So you have 2 minutes, and we'll start with Robert. Would you like to come to the podium?
In closing, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I'm going to keep this short. We've all heard enough of us talking tonight. What I do believe, everyone here lives in this community, and I truly like to believe that all of us want to protect this new village and what we all love about it. I believe my experience and my background, being on the Stormwater and the Planning Commission, does set me apart from some of the other candidates. And I encourage everybody to go out on June 12th and vote, and hopefully your vote is for me, Robert Funk.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. It shows me that all of you care about the village of Yorkville and its future. I would also like the Chamber for sponsoring such a nice event. Yorkville is a great place to live and raise a family. From knowledge that I have gained from being on the Planning Commission and Stormwater Commission, I know and understand the rules and how things operate in the village of Yorkville. I have a good understanding of the ordinances, and I am able to refer back to them when questions arise. This knowledge will be very beneficial as we go forward. My roots run deep in Yorkville. I am proud to say that my children are the 6th generation of Morrises to live here. As a Village of Yorkville trustee, I will work hard to ensure that their generation will enjoy the same great community that I grew up in. I encourage all of you to vote for me, Dan Morris, on June 12th. Thank you.
I think it was great, the turnout of candidates you have here this evening. You have business owners, private individuals, and a good cross-section, farmers, techno people, and it gives you a great opportunity to select the type of candidate that you feel can best serve the village of Yorkville. I started my public service work 46 years ago in the city of Racine I was the president of the Junior Chamber of Commerce for 3 years. The Junior Achievement Group, we brought young students together and then trained them to open a business, and we had business shows. I feel that my wife Nancy and I have raised 5 children in the village of Yorkville, attended the Union Grove High School, got their education here, and I want to pay back to the village of Yorkville of what they have given my family and what we can offer to you in the future. I feel I can bring to this board experience, knowledge, and also leadership that I think the village of Yorkville needs. And so I'd appreciate your vote on June 12th, and thank you once again for coming.
Well, folks, it's glad to see all of you here. Thanks for your questions. I've lived in Yorkville my entire life on land that my great-grandfather started farming in 1893. My son and his family and my niece and her family live in Yorkville, so I have a vested interest in the future of this community. Working as a vice president for a company in Milwaukee has given me extra incentive to try to maintain Yorkville's current setting, and has also given me experience in making tough decisions on both policy and personnel. I have been chairman of the Yorkville Stormwater Commission since 2011 and have attended almost all of the board meetings since then. I am very familiar with the type of issues that come before the board, and I am confident that I can make decisions that are in the best interest of our community. I'd be honored to have your vote on June 12th. Thank you very much.
Wasn't this just a great opportunity? Thank you so much to Marge and Jennifer and the Union Grove Chamber of Commerce and Union Grove High School for hosting this really, really wonderful event. My husband and I have spent the last 30 years where we want to live for the next 30 years, in Yorkville. Our 2 boys, Teddy and Matt, attended Yorkville School. Teddy just completed his 6-year commitment to the Air Force, having served 2 tours in Afghanistan. And Matthew recently graduated from Iowa Law School. We moved to Yorkville because we wanted our boys to experience the rural life and small town community that we experienced growing up north of Milwaukee. My platform is simple. While I am committed to preserving Yorkville's rural atmosphere and agricultural heritage, I also understand that out of change comes opportunity, and that development and growth, if carefully considered and controlled, can be advantageous. I support manufacturing and commercial expansion along the frontage road in the Grandview Park and maintaining our current residential zoning ordinances. I believe that communication is the key to success in business, government, and life in general. As we contend with the changes, both positive and negative, that Foxconn brings to Yorkville, it is crucial that the village board and its committees engage and include all interested residents through email, village website, newsletters, community forums, visioning sessions, and public hearings. My motto has always been, ask the next question. I am a good listener, solid researcher, and skilled writer. I am a hardworking, fiscally conservative, passionate, straightforward person. Through my professional and volunteer leadership experience, I have worked with people from all walks of life, and I strongly believe that everyone has something to contribute. To paraphrase Thomas Jefferson, the key to a successful democracy is an educated populace. That's what this forum was about tonight. Thank you for coming. I hope I earned your vote on June 12th.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight and for allowing us to speak. I just want to say that I look forward to this new chapter in Yorkville's. I have 40 years of experience from the other side of the table, business owner, and I feel with my experience I can help with the aspects of all development. I understand the importance between growth and rural. I'm excited to be part of this new venture, to give back to the community that I have loved for these past 40 years and that I call home. To serve the residents of Yorkville, I will listen to you, hear you, and do my best to support you in everything. For that, I ask you for your vote, and I thank you for this time. Good night.
At this time, our presidential candidates will come forward. Thank you. They're coming.
Once again, I want to thank the Union Grove Area Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event and thank all of you for coming tonight. A little bit of background that I wasn't able to say before. I've had 40 years in customer service, and customer service is a wonderful quality to have when you have to be dealing with the public. Let me tell you. Public people in general can be very rude at sometimes, and other times they can be very, very helpful and understanding and are so willing to help people understand the issues at hand. And so I do believe that part of that has helped me in my position here. We've talked about growth, we've talked about residential growth, industrial growth. I think most of us on this board are all in agreement that we know that that growth is going to come, and we know we have to be ahead of it in order to make sure that it's what everybody wants. I am a lifelong Yorkville resident. My husband and I have built 2 homes here in the town of Yorkville, village of Yorkville. My children and now my grandchildren are attending schools here. My great-great-grandmother, who came from Yorkshire, England, back in the mid-1800s, was actually the one who named our town Yorkville. She came from Yorkshire, England, and she decided that she felt that this name of this town should be called Yorkville. My ancestors are the first ones here in Yorkville, and I have many relatives living here today. No matter what the outcome is on June 12th, we will all need to be reelected in next April. Please give me the opportunity to serve as your president as we move forward. Thank you.
We've heard a lot of comments and understanding of communication with our citizens. When I say our citizens, that means all of us. I run on a platform that the Constitution was created to help guide us. It starts out as we the people. That is key. No matter who gets up here as a board member or a president, to take an interest in making sure that that is followed. The Constitution was developed when people were overwrought by government control, and we fought to independence so that no matter how small or how large an issue is for an individual, that we unite together and don't forget that that is what makes our government work. I've lived here for 55 years. I have been blessed with many friends and good neighbors. I hope to continue that. I'm asking for your vote that communication is key. I've been on the other side of the table for 20 years. Any of the board members can tell you, especially our town attorney at the current time, says you always have lots of questions. Well, questions lead to answers. They stimulate thought for all that are involved. No matter who comes up with the answer or who asks the question, it has to be asked, and there has to be an answer to come forward so we can all move together as one community. I'm asking for your vote, and I'll stand on that. Thank you.
This concludes our forum this evening, and I am convinced, after listening to the responses from your candidates, that whoever is elected will serve you well. They come with a lot of experience. I also challenge those of you who are elected, not challenge, but say, take advantage of the experience of those who are not elected. And if they are not serving on boards now, they obviously have the interest to want to be involved. So by all means, make use of that interest. The candidates have also asked me to thank again, not only the Chamber of Commerce, but Jennifer for organizing this tonight, and also for let's give a hand to our Union Grove High School student in the back who has been taking the technology. So thank you, and my last admonition or admonishment to you is be sure to vote. Thank you.